So now I'm going to talk about how exactly these Myblocks for the gyro sensor work. Now, if you're not familiar with Myblocks, this gray block on the left is a parameter block. And what it does is when you actually drag your actual Myblock into the actual program, your Myblock, which is blue, it will have three parameters. In this case, it'll have three parameters, and these three parameters can be changed to and they will change different values inside the Myblock. So this first value is port, right? And if you can tell, I dragged it to this first gyro sensor block right here inside the loop. And what it does is whatever number I put in there that's going to be the port that the gyro sensor is connected to. Now here, the second parameter is power, and I connected that to this moving straight block right here. And what that does is I can input whatever power I want. And now for rotations, it's connected to the loop over here, and that's just after how many rotations do I want it to stop. Now, how this moving straight Myblock first starts, how it works is, so right here in the beginning, we have two blocks, and these are just two reset blocks. One of them resets the gyro sensor, and one of them resets the motor values, so we can count how far the motors have turned. Now, inside the loop, first we have the gyro sensor block, and what this does is it will measure how many degrees the robot has turned. So we're trying to go straight. So if the robot's trying to go straight and it turns a little bit to the right, now positive is right and negative is left. So if we turn a little bit to the right, that's going to be a positive number. And now what gyro sensor is going to do is it's going to take this value and then it's going to multiply it by negative 0.7, as you can see with these two red blocks. Now what multiplying it by negative 0.7 does is it changes it to a negative value. And 0.7 is a nice number because it's a little bit less than 1. So it'll make him move a little slower. Now, multiplying by negative 0.7 makes the value negative, and what that negative number will do is it will make the gyro sensor reverse back to the original position. Now, the turning block is much more simple. So first, our first parameter is direction. And how this works is, to figure out how this works, you need to look at the Myblock. So first we have our gyro sensor reset, and then we have our math block. So the math block has two values, A and B, and you're multiplying them together. And if you can tell, they're both parameters. So the first one is direction, and the second one is the type of turn. So in my turning video, I talked about the different types of turns. So there's the spin turn, the smooth turn, and the pivot turn. And I told you what values to use in move steering to achieve those results. And that's exactly what you're doing here. So for that parameter, you're just going to put whatever you want. So for 50, if you want to do a pivot turn, 100 if you want to do a spin turn, stuff like that. And then, so we multiply those together, and then direction, you want to put either 1 or negative 1. So 1 will make it positive, which will keep the number the same, and negative 1 will change it to a negative, which will make it turn the other way. So it's basically choosing, do you want to turn right or left? Right is 1 and left is negative 1. And then we have our move steering block. So once again, we have a parameter for the power. You can choose the power. And then the other value, which is the type of turn, is already decided by our math block. And then our final block right here is the gyro sensor weight block. And our parameter right there, so it's connected to this number symbol. And what that means is basically whatever number you put in that parameter is going to be the amount of degrees that it turns. Now, finally, for calibration, there's not really anything to explain about this. This is just how the gyro sensor calibrates.